My name's Mike Lescault, and I'm here with Henry and Jared from Team Dakota. And we're going to get ready to start our little live cast here, where Jared has graciously offered to build a tower defense game live, or at least to attempt to.
This is true. I'm Henry Sterchi, creative director on Project Spark.
I'm Jared Greiner, one of the game designers on Project Spark.
So I want to start off by saying thank you very much for all of the ideas and great feedback from the last feed. That was super helpful. I want everybody to know that Mike gets the props for this session because I found out about it when I saw it on Facebook. And we are running really hot on our Gamescom build, but we're really excited to show you guys some more stuff. And Jared is ready to build an awesome tower defense.
Good to know you're at least watching on Facebook. So.
I'm going to jump in here. Go into an empty world. Starting a blank canvas here. Alright. But instead of building a U-shaped hill, we're going to do something else.
No U-shaped hill?
No U-shaped hill to start this one off.
So let's recap real quick for anyone that's new to Project Spark. So Project Spark is an open world digital canvas that allows you to build your own worlds, games, stories, lots and lots of different things. And then you can share it with the world. It's available on Xbox 360, Windows 8, and Xbox One. And when you share stuff, it goes across all the platforms. So it's a really amazing experience to go between a Surface and then on your Xbox One and back and forth. The other thing is that you can use touch controls, mouse and keyboard, and controller to create. Mm-hmm. So Jared's probably going to use a combination of most of those because that's how he rolls. So here he's gone into the brains. All of the objects in Project Spark have brains. And he is going to start off with our sort of top-down isometric camera. He's using our boom camera setting, and he's got a couple of modifiers on there. So basically what he's saying is he wants a boom camera with controls still. So he's taking some control over that. And what did you put that in?
I put it in the cannonball.
Okay, so you put it in the cannonball.
So I'm using cannonball as kind of my cursor to start here and then modify that as we go.
Great. So let's cover a little bit on tower defense. So I know you guys sent in a bunch of stuff on a lot of different genres. Tower defense stood out. Mike vouches for that, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
So tower defense is a genre that's become really prominent lately. Maybe the last several years. You've got a lot of different styles of tower defense. Some of the great ones: Defense Grid, Desktop Defenders. There's been a ton of great tower defenses over the years. And what's really great about them is there's a really strong strategic element to them. So we're going to try and capture a lot of those core essences.
All right, what I'm doing here is giving myself something to defend. So for now, we'll just start with a house. That'll be the objective, to defend this house. And then I'm going to use this logic cube to control a lot of my just game state, like am I losing, am I winning, how many lives do I have left, all that kind of stuff.
So the great thing about logic cubes is it's a pretty utility-driven item, and it defaults to not being visible in your world when you test. But everything in our world that's an object can be visible or not visible. You can also use our code in our visual programming language to trigger things that would make it visible or not visible. So you could even have a condition that made the logic cube visible if, for say, you wanted to do that. So you made a variable here?
Yep, I made a variable called hit points. So for every bad guy that reaches the house, I'll lose a hit point.
So you're giving the house health.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the key components of a tower defense, right? Something you defend, normally it has some kind of a criteria around number of hits it's taken or troops that enter it. Toy soldiers is a great example with how many troops get in your base. And you're trying to replicate that. One of the other kind of main constants is that, enemies would come in, probably in a wave with a timer, along a path, and then you would have some defense mechanisms, turrets, and various other objects. And a lot of the strategy comes into the different damage types that the turrets do to the enemies, as well as the paths and reacting to the paths and the different types of enemies that are coming in along that.
So right now I'm moving a trigger around, so this will be the thing that detects the enemies when they get nearby, when they get to the house here.
So you're putting the trigger in...
So triggers from the logic cube, so I can put all the stuff for the brain in the logic cube there.
Okay.
But it'll watch and wait for enemies to get nearby the house here. Oop, I rotated it a little bit there.
So the logic cube is playing the neighborhood watch role.
Yep, basically. All right.
So why'd you choose a cannonball again?
It's a nice round shape, so it moves across the surface really
So
smoothly.
you're actually going to use it with controls in it.
Yep, so the cannonball's already got our
Okay.
controls in it, so I can pilot the camera around. I'm displaying how many hit points the house has left up there at the top of the screen. It's kind of tiny, though, so let me take the font size up on that.
Okay, so let's walk through a little bit of the displaying items on the screen. So we showed this a bit yesterday. So here you have display that triggers one of the categories of the brains, and then you can modify where you want it, how large, what kind of text or output you want it to display. You could actually attach icons or other items and things like that to display. So if you want to have a picture of the house there, you can do that, a meter and stuff like that. And then you're using plus to display the hit points.
Yep, so I'm
using
combining
plus as a math.
the text of hit points with the number of how many hit points are left there.
Cool. And then in the top line, something interesting we didn't show was once. So you're setting your variable sort of control number, and you're doing that once. So that'll only happen once at all.
Yep, right when the game starts. Whereas this line, since it doesn't have any condition, will just be running completely throughout the entire game.
And another option that you could do that does a different behavior, but maybe seems similar, is something like page enter. But the difference between that is you can always switch back to that page, and it'll call again. Once will literally just call once.
All right, I'm going to finish off my cursor here. And this was all Henry's idea, to use this kind of ring shape. Ooh, grab that. Let's get this a little bit smaller. All right. Rotate it flat. Put that right around the cannonball. And then I'm going to attach it to the cannonball and make the cannonball invisible then.
Guys, sorry about the chroma key. It's a little off there. I can stop and fix it. I'll ask the community. You want us to stop and fix it, or you want us to let Jared keep going here? Keep going. There's about a 18-second delay.
Okay.
Okay.
What color should we make that cursor? It's going to be pretty white. So
Yellow, orange?
something like
so.
that. All right, see how that looks now. All right, so there's my cursor to run around the game with. But let's get an enemy in here so we can actually start seeing what that looks like. All right, grab this goblin guy, throw him out here, and now I'm going to rewrite his brain from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything that's in here. Okay, and to start here, I'm just going to tell him to run straight at the house.
So you notice he had to delete the brain that was there. A lot of the objects that are in our gallery come with default brains on them. And sometimes that's super helpful. You can just drop some stuff in the world and have some emergent gameplay and some fun things to discover around the behaviors. Sometimes you want to start from scratch. Sometimes you might just want to remix a small section of that brain.
You want to talk about this one here, the in-world picker thing?
Okay, cool. So I don't actually think this is something we showed, but one of the cool things is you can link things to objects in our gallery or actually in the world. So here Jared's using the in-world picker, and he's selecting a specific object. So he's actually telling it about that one thing. Now, if he had grabbed, say, the house from the gallery, he's actually telling it to do that to all the houses that get spawned within the level. So it's really powerful and flexible. You can say there's one specific thing or everything like it. And there's actually a couple of different ways to do that. You could do an object variable to assign what you want to grab and things like that too, but this is a nice quick way. It also gives a lot of great feedback because you're actually grabbing it in your world.
So this line I just dropped in at the top of the enemy brain here is going to, once the game starts, it's going to add this enemy to a list of objects that I'm calling enemies so I can track all my enemies.
Cool.
in
So
there.
world is a good example. You see the icon there? That is a work in progress icon. And one of the things that's really powerful about this language that we use is all of those visual elements that describe sort of what it's doing. And you start to get muscle memory with the location of where all these things are, but you really start to build up a vocabulary almost of these language elements, and your brain just remembers them from these pictures that are also very descriptive. A couple other things that we never talked about before is you can hover over a brain tile, and that'll actually give you a description, and then you can click more info on it, and that will even give you a code example. So we've got a lot of different ways that you can get into the brain, and even more we haven't talked about yet. Okay, so now you're going into the effects.
Yeah, I'm going to make when the enemy...
They're going to screen capture everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
we saw a
So
couple of these.
when the enemy gets to the house, so when the anything from the enemy's list is in the trigger zone, I'm going to decrement my hit points up here, take these guys and decrease that by 1, and then I'm going to destroy the enemy and play a little fireball explosion at the enemy's position.
Okay. And again, another thing really cool about Project Spark is Jared can very instantly test this stuff out. And there's a really strong iteration process. In game development and game design in general, you can only take things often so far on paper. And when you actually get to tangibly feel it and play it, we do something a lot in development that I call, playing the game in our head. And that's really the as far as you can take it on paper. But being able to get it in software, try it out, that's where you learn the majority of stuff. That's also where you add the magic. A lot of design is focused on problem solving and figuring out how to do things in building systems. And one of the things that we always talk about on the team is our group really believes in it's also about taking things that are really cool and really special and amping those up as well. So sometimes when you find fun and lightning in a bottle, you want to make that amazing too, and that whole iteration process helps you find those things faster. Okay, so he disappeared.
Yeah.
And he went he went into the house.
Or something like that. He got destroyed, and that was
So he destroyed first is what happened.
something there.
That's why he didn't play the other things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I'm just going to play the effect at the house's position and make it really big because the house is going to get damaged.
So the lines execute in order.
Yep.
And then what you did here is line 3 actually has what we call child rules below it.
Mm-hmm.
So line 3 is sort of the opening condition to trigger the other rules. And again, that just gives you a ton of power and flexibility with how you want to work things.
Yep. Okay.
And we can't emphasize enough, we're going to be doing a lot of iteration, and we're going to be going fairly deep in the brains here and there. So some of this stuff might sound complicated.
Can you talk a little bit about the iteration model overall with design and how what Jared's making here isn't the actual finished game?
Yeah, I think you look at trying to build from those core things out, right? When you sort of mind map, and you can do that even visually, right? In design, we use a lot of Visio tools and things like that to mind map out a lot of stuff. But you want to mind map out your goals, and I think that's the first thing that's really important: is have your goals. In this case, we're looking at covering sort of the key tropes and the key pillars around what makes a tower defense. So once you get that stuff in, really all you're doing is putting in a foundation and a framework. As you start building the layers on the house and stuff like that, you want to make sure that your mechanics are constantly sort of laddering down or laddering up. We use something that we talk about in Project Spark in general as layering. And layering is a really strong mechanic in design because, if you look at the brain, the fact that you can program it from scratch, the fact that you can remix it, and the fact that you can just swap in an entirely new brain is a form of layering or scaffolding. We do a similar thing with design where we start to try one thing, and when we get some fun or we get some gameplay or something that's really clicking out of that, we want to build some deeper stuff off of it. So, if you look at Mario Brothers, when you jump off of an enemy, and then you bounce off of another enemy, and then you hold the button and jump higher and land even further, that's just an example of layering mechanics. And you really can't do that without great iteration. You can, but it's a lot easier with great iteration. So what did you do here?
So I'm working on what's probably going to be the most complicated brain in this game right now. So I'm going to use this, it's our little teleport pad object. I'm going to use that as kind of a pedestal where I can build turrets and towers and different things that'll defend my house. So I'm working on in here allowing the player to interact with this object, and then it'll take you kind of into a different state where you can choose which towers to build and different things like that.
And the interact tile has some behavior built into it.
Yep.
So that's another thing about the tiles is some of the tiles have already functioning things that may seem like more than one step, kind of automatically done for you.
Alright, so I got this set up to, when I press B, I'll leave that mode, I'll exit and go back to...
And that's because the interact automatically calls for a button.
So right now, one of the things that's brand new for these guys, and they've probably been a little bit thrown off by, is I'm switching back and forth between pages here.
Right.
So I've got page 1, which is looking for the player to be nearby, waiting for the player to interact with it, and then it'll switch it over to this other state that I'm building on page 2. And when we're in this state, I can press B and exit and go back to page 1 and different things like that.
Right, and that's a quick and powerful way to do things like, making sure what's not on the first page executes anymore. We're getting blurry. Very
Focus.
blurry.
Ooh.
And make sure that what's on the other page isn't executing. But it is a nice way to just arrange your programming in general. That has a lot of ties to regular programming. We put some tools in there. I don't know if we can fix the blurriness, Mike.
I should come back.
We put some tools in there so you can do things like name your page. You can easily link and refer back to your pages and call out to specific ones. So there's a lot of little annotations and things you can do within your pages as well. Okay, so we're going to display another thing here.
Yep, so when you go into this tower building mode, I'm going to display the different tower options we've got and the different controls you can press to build them. So right now I'm going to hook it up. B will be exit the mode, and X will build my first tower.
Okay, so what you're doing here is instead of going wide and trying to cover everything you're trying to build at first. You're trying to go deep and make a fairly functional tower.
Yep.
And see how that works.
Yeah, we could build maybe the first tower just like sitting there.
I think that's a good way to do it because once you plan out that tower, it's a lot easier to replicate future towers.
That's true. Yeah. So, do you want me to go for the tower first, and then
Go for it. Yeah.
we'll come back to this?
I think
All
that's
right,
what
all
I
right.
want.
Tower first. Then
Mike, I can't see comments and questions.
So-
So if we, once we establish a bit of a rhythm and a flow here, again, just like last time, we want to keep it super casual, just hang out. But we would love to get some little markers in here from, what people want to see without completely derailing Jared.
So if
he
you
ends
want
up,
to
platforming tower
move the
defense.
mouse right there, minimize that screen that's right there in front of you right now. Click on the second one. No, close that. The second one for the right. That one, yeah.
Ah, fantastic. So
And
it's
you
right
can
here.
make that larger if,
Can I turn the volume on so we get an echo?
I'm still really kind of traumatized by that.
Yeah, me too. All right, so let's see. I can help catch up. So people want a U-shape, a V-shaped tower, V-shaped hills. Well, V is one step above U. So
Chat faster so he doesn't see what I said about
Oh
it.
boy.
That's true. Oh yeah, hang on. I'm gonna scroll back.
All right.
Oh,
there is-
no. Yeah. No, we can scroll.
So right here,
Technology?
That's right.
I built the basic structure that I'm gonna make into a tower, but right now this thing doesn't have any sort of brain. It's completely empty. So if I go and play, this will show that iterative process stuff. It's just a blank tower that kind of sits there and doesn't do anything when my enemy gets nearby. So let's go ahead and add some more stuff to that.
Talk a little bit about too what you made the tower out of, right? Like we don't have a tower just sitting in the gallery.
Yeah, so this is made out of just a little wooden pedestal thing and then just a big log. They're attached together that kind of end up looking like a kind of standard tower defense, little pea shooter thing that can take on that enemy over there.
Cool.
Alright, so what he's going to do is...
And that kind of light faded chain that you see there, that's actually some early UI, but it's our attachment to show that he's kind of got those things together.
Yeah.
It's all right. So here we are back in the brain. We're almost going to make the tower yaw. That'd be interesting. So here we're going to make the tower turn. Turn actually works really well for a tower because it can just pivot in place with turn. And then you can go ahead and sort of specify what directions it's turning in. You can give it kind of straight left and right. You could give it vectors if you wanted to. So here he's going to say turn toward target. So he earlier defined what the target is, and then he's simply telling the tower to turn towards it when it detects an enemy. So a couple things here. It's a little deeper than what you may have seen. Is we are classifying what an enemy is. That's the kind of situation at the top, and then we are specifying what a target is, and that'll help us, keep things straight. If we were, say, for example, going to have a character run around on the field, like a toy soldiers, or when I was over in XBLA, we worked on the South Park tower defense, and it had actually a character running around. This would help the turret define the enemies. So here, we're going to say shoot at target, and then we can define a speed. Now, what's really interesting is we talked again about multiple ways to do stuff. So here, Jared can go ahead in the brains and put in a number. He could also have gone to the properties of the object and adjusted a number for its shoot properties straight from that. But again, what's really interesting is that shoot tile has a lot of stuff built into it because we want things to just work, but it doesn't mean it's inflexible. So here, it's going to shoot a fireball, it's going to shoot it with a specific damage already built in, and a bunch of other preset variables.
Yeah.
But Jared is going to use this later on probably, but you can actually define an object as we showed in the world with the world picker, and instead say you want to shoot a specific thing. Brad did this with the rock shark last week, where he had it shoot crossbows.
Yeah, so eventually I'll
Are you
get
making an environment in the stream? So we're going to see how this goes. We have some people that would love to stop by. Again, we want to keep it really casual, but we may have one of our artists stop by and show how we can sort of build an environment around this tower defense once we get some progress here.
So Henry and Jared, what did you guys think about OX25? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know. He was the one that sent me the tower defense with the U-shaped hill image I sent you guys.
Yes,
earlier.
I saw that.
That was awesome.
I love the little tower I love the little turret on the top.
Yeah.
I think, once we get the logic, so that's another thing that we don't talk about a lot. Once we get the logic in the house, we could actually go to what we call swap mesh. And we could turn that house into anything. So we could start to build a tower, and the brains would retain. You don't lose the brains when you swap mesh. So here we go. We've got some cool stuff. He ate it.
Yeah, that turret
Wow.
just took him out. All right, let's make him
Wow.
shoot the cannonball, though.
All right, so this is going to be an example of how we're going to use the in-world picker to call into an object.
That's not what I meant to do.
Yeah, you want to put it a little later.
Yep.
So here he's going to say shoot and then add the cannonball in. He's saying it's 0x25.
Okay.
So when you do this, one of the things you want to go to is template. Template allows that item to replicate. So you could just basically continually spawn it. If you just put it in the world once, you'd only call it once, which you could also do, and that might be something you may want to do. But here, if you want to just keep spawning the same cannonball, you template it. And that's what he got. And that is still poning that goblin right in the face.
Yeah, that goblin might not have enough hit points. You might have to look at that.
And you could
here in
also
a second.
change the travel speed.
Yeah.
You could also change the damage of the cannonball. One of the things that is another good kind of design thing to think about is when you have a control factor in your environment, like let's say the cannonball damage. You want to think about, do I want to balance all of the enemies' numbers to this cannonball, or do I want to balance the cannonball's numbers to all the different enemies? In this case, I'm guessing you probably want to, I will let Jared decide.
I mean, I'll probably balance everything to that one cannonball's default damage and go from there.
I think that probably makes the most sense in this case. Okay, so here you're calling create. We haven't actually showed a lot of the wheel for create. Create gives you a lot of different things, like you can call effects and music, but one of the things you can also do is actually spawn an entire new object at that location or offsets of that location. So here you're going to create a rustic pedestal, which is what we used as a tower.
Yep.
So he's going to create another tower here, and then he's going to define the position. Now, if you don't define the position, it creates it right at that object's point.
Yeah, so you should see when we play this
detail.
time, there won't be any tower there by default because I made the tower into a template. And so what I'll have to do is go to to this little platform over here and build a tower from that. So let's see if that's all up and running. So I'll go there, press X, and then I built myself a little tower to shoot you. So we're getting started here. We're getting closer to having a real game happening.
Okay, so the cannonballs are shooting out of nowhere. Make them shoot out of the nozzle. Right. So that's one of the questions we got here.
Okay.
That's a good question. So the objects have a sort of, what do we call it, an emit point, basically. They sort of have this socket that they can shoot out of, that support, but you can actually define where it does shoot out of.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's think about that.
So this is a tricky one. We threw him a curveball.
Yeah, curveball. Nicely done, Reddit, and
So
everyone
who
who's
was
watching
that?
the stream
Let's get
here.
him credit.
Who was it?
We're going to use an offset to pull that off,
Right.
and I'm going to have to calculate that using some vector math. So this is like the black magic of the visual programming stuff you can do here. So let's calculate. Let's maybe make that a variable.
What we can do later on, once we get the game established more, is we can do like a can you do this in 3 tiles thing too.
Right.
And Jared loves that.
Yeah, that's the most fun.
Was that Cold Door? I think that was Cold
Let me think.
That was Coldor? That was a good question.
I'll just use a logic.
Can we make Sonic Adventure 2's I don't even, the Chow Guard? Yeah, that's the little pet guys you raise. I'm not sure what that means. I know, didn't they have that on the little MU thing, and you could like level them up on the little display screen? It was like a little pet guy you could level. What do you mean by that? I want to see who asked that Sonic.
All right, I think I found an easier way to do that, actually.
Smart glass, yes.
Instead of
So-
doing the vector stuff, I think I can just shoot from a
So-
little cube that I attached on the end there.
So Pinky is mentioning Smart Glass. Smart Glass, we've only shown so far how it works. With the
Let's
Xbox
test
One, you can use it to do touch controls on the Smart Glass, and it's basically just a fully featured way to do touch controls.
Does the chat like that better? Where it
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, well, I know the Chows, but I don't know how that related to tower defense. I've never tower defensed them.
Maybe
I've,
you should.
I've like
Maybe that was-
I've raised them and nurtured them, but never tower defensed them.
Okay. I think the next bit I want to do here is I'm going to have so many templates going on in this level. I'm going to turn my little pedestal into a template so that as we keep updating that,
Here's a question we haven't talked. Let's see. Oh yes, I don't know how to say Chow, so that's driving me crazy. Can you have a muzzle flash? Yeah, so you can. Oh, it's
Yeah,
the
that's a good
same
idea.
person. We can't keep answering this. Yeah, so you can just emit an effect from a certain point, so you could totally replicate a muzzle flash.
muzzle flash, more on
Make
the fly
Call of
stuff
Duty
here.
Black Ops 2 the second mission. Is that the one where you're the bad guy and he's like invincible? That was a crazy mission.
What do we got?
So you just said Xbox over actual games is even more tedious. Let's see. So game design more tedious. That's another good comment. I think it really depends on the cycle that you're in. When you're designing systems and you've got a lot of dependencies around technology and art or audio and other facets, you can get into some tedium because everything is so tied together. But really, like, I find the most fun about game design is when you get to play the game. When you have something on screen, I think that's where a lot of the magic happens, and that part's really not tedious at all. It's just a lot of fun, and you learn a lot of stuff playing your own game. And that's one of the big things I always remind a lot of people. Like, and you're gonna, for Project Spark, it's absolutely positively true. Is when you're making your own game, you play it. Like, that's the best way to learn from it, and the best way to iterate on it. I talk about. There we go. Look at that. I don't even know what you did. I wasn't even watching. I was trying to take questions. That was cool. So, when you make your own game and you iterate on it, you learn a lot of different things. And one of the cool things about it is, you start to see this process of what's working and what's not working. And it's just something you can't get from anything other than playing your own game. Plus, it's fun.
So one of the questions is, can you? This will obviously would be a lot more complicated.
Can the
probably
tower-
more here.
Here's
Can you
another one.
prioritize the enemies so they could attack the most?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can give them weighted values. You could, Jared can take this on. You can do quite a few things. So let's take that one on.
Which one? I'm trying to think about a variable name.
All
I
right,
wanna
let him
put
think
in
about
here.
a variable.
Or
And then we
like
can
some
let him
text
try
here.
and solve that.
All right,
So what else we have? We had another good question that scrolled by really quick. Can we see the brain on the morphing terrain, please? We can maybe hit that later. Coldor's making... So I can't repeat that one. Where was another one? Oh, can the tower turn to shoot? Yeah, so do you have the tower tracking?
Yeah, it
Okay.
should be. So it's probably just killing the guy really fast. So maybe if I
Right.
slow it down,
Right.
we'll be able to see a little bit more of that.
So yeah, basically by saying turn, it's actually a great way to do face, right? So if you wanted to say, for example, do a strafing game and you want to have like an auto lock, what they call the Z lock from Zelda and stuff like that, you could just do like face the object and then auto turn and orientate towards it. So here we go. So here's the tower tracking him, and pow!
And he got away. That one made it through.
He made it through, yeah, because he normally dies right on his face.
Mm-hmm.
So some sort of debugger. There are ways to debug. So debug it's not an overly fun subject, but debugging there's a couple of different things. So so we talked about this before. Something that's really special about the way we did the brains, and this took a lot of work, and Eric and his team just did amazing work on this. It has what we call tile compatibility. Essentially what that means is recommendations. So when you put in one tile, it's going to narrow it down, and it's going to tell you like what works with that. So it's actually really hard to sort of make the wrong line that doesn't function. If you do end up doing that, we do show you immediately that line is broken. It's not something that at runtime is going to really show up. When you do go into runtime anyway, we have a broken icon. We have a broken icon that appears and stuff like that. Obviously, when you iterate, because there is functionally broken and then there is gameplay broken. So again, that goes back to playing your game. When you iterate, you'll see things maybe that didn't work as you expected, things you might want to tweak. The best debugging for that is to play it. In addition to that, we have things like displaying all the names of the object in your world and stuff like that. So really, if you don't go too far off of things, you won't break the tile compatibility. You're not going to be breaking much stuff in Project Spark. We'll let Jared catch up on the game, and I can talk a little bit more about some of that maybe too.
All right, right now what I'm hooking up is I'm going to use some coins in this game. So it's
There's some other ones we got here.
if we don't have enough coins, I won't be able to build a tower. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Does the code order matter? Yes, the code executes in an order, but there's some flexibility around that. It's not quite like you'd expect from... you can have multiple things on the same line, and it'll basically support it fairly well. So you don't really have to worry about the chronology of it too much. But if you are really looking at stringing things in a specific way, or having, like we showed, the child rule of this only happens after this other thing, then you do have to kind of intentionally really think about where you're putting the lines. Can we create a health bar over the goblins' heads? That's
Sure.
a good one.
That seems like a
very,
reasonable-
very
So
great
that's another
question.
good thing. So feedback. Feedback is super important, right? Because you know what you're doing, and Jared knows what he's doing. But I need feedback when I play this game, and I think having the feedback is a super important thing. Because for me, tower defense, one of the things for me is when you fail, you want to learn. You want to know what you did wrong. And you only get that through really great feedback. You know, when you look at some of the games like Defense Grid and some of the really good tower defense games, you get a really good amount of feedback. So you can learn and feel like you're doing, you're getting better the next time.
Show meter. I'm going to grab this out of Player Brain, actually, because I know there's something like that already exists.
So we'll hop back to some questions. Let's focus on Jared catching up what he's doing. Okay, so he's got a player in here now.
Or I'm going to drop Player Brain in this guy,
so he's
so
going
I
to
can
drop a
steal
player
from
brain.
it. Right.
Stealing brains. So that's another thing that's awesome is, you can take the default brains and you can copy stuff out of them. You can paste them in other places. It's sort of like, it's a great way to learn is to read the brains and take stuff that works from it.
All right, let's see what that looks like now. There you go.
Everybody download Kodu and you will have an idea of what they can do at the least. Absolutely, and if you guys haven't checked out Kodu, we can put up the URL for that at some point. It's a free download. We've got touch controls in Kodu now, and we've got some really cool stuff. There's a tower defense game in Kodu now, and there you go, kodugamelabs.com. And I would definitely say you want to get familiar with the brains. Now, keep in mind that this is sort of the version 2 evolution of the Kodu brains, and there's a lot of specific game making stuff that we've done that Kodu doesn't have, but Kodu's fantastic. This stream is Bro Ball approved. All right. I'm pretty sure that's a good
I'll
thing.
put that on my resume.
And there's Meat Boy. So it's Bro
Nice.
Ball and Meat Boy's approving. So that's pretty sweet.
Remember that come review time, Henry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just hooked up there is the goblin will create a coin when it dies, so we should be able to see that if I
Okay, cool.
build a tower.
Okay,
here
so
fast.
you put down some coins.
Oh, my tower shoots too slow because I was trying to show you guys how that works.
Your base, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna make him shoot faster again here so that I can kill this goblin and get a coin from him. All right. There we go. So I can collect that. So we've got the basics of a little economy running here. So I'm gonna start getting a few more enemies involved and do some more complex things with them, so we can actually get a little bit of a challenge in this.
Okay. I'm checking the time because
How are we doing?
we're not we're at a half hour.
Okay.
We got some work to do.
All right. I'm
You're
going.
gonna be
You give
late.
me all these
We
like.
had a really good idea, and I wanted to put it in there, but it's going to derail you. There was a great idea of having the tower build over time.
Oh, that is a
So when
great
you place
one.
it, you have a timer, and you could totally do that, but not with this pressure.
I mean, that would be
Maybe.
like.
We can maybe come back and add that.
All right. So tell them what I'm doing here, because this is
Okay.
brand new here. So
Okay.
I'm building a path.
Okay, so we have what we call the path tool. So the path tool is really interesting. You basically draw a line, and you can assign objects to follow that path. He's drawing some waypoints in here, which gives the path, obviously, some flexibility, so it doesn't have to be a straight line in any direction.
Mhm.
And the little ball there that's rolling along the path, that's essentially a previewer for what you can do. So he's going into the path-specific properties here. So he can make the line curved instead of straight. He can make the actual movement along the line smooth, or he can make it just accelerate instantly. He can make the line loop. He can make it ping pong. He can make it just play once. So there's a ton of flexibility on how you can drive something to a path. Because we're a tower defense and paths are really important, pathing is a good option for what we're trying to do. You can do a lot of different things, like just send an enemy in a direction for a certain amount of time, send him in another direction. You may have seen some little robot programs and gadgets that do some of that type of programming. You can do that, but path is actually a really good way to do this. So here what he's doing is he's going to end up assigning something to go along that path, and he's putting down some timers. So he's got a countdown timer of 5, and then he's telling it to hold for 10, and then he's adding a child rule of the countdown timer, and then he's going to create something. So let's see what he's going to create here.
Guess what? Goblins.
Goblins. So this is going to be a spawner and something that links to your path.
Yep. So
Okay.
it'll create these guys right at the end of the path here, and then their brain, I'll hook them up to run along the path. So right there, and then
Can I make a solar system? So if you saw the first montage that we had, there was a brief clip of somebody in the internal builds that actually built a solar system. Somebody ended up going in and remixing it and putting real gravitational pulls around it.
Yeah.
It was like the most ridiculous
That was
thing ever.
Eddie. We were actually going to do a stream.
No,
about
Eddie
that.
started it. And
Eddie
somebody
built
else
the
went
first
in.
version.
Eddie
Way to
built the
ruin
first
the
version.
punchline.
Oh yeah, okay.
Hold on, I got to reschedule my whole editorial schedule now.
Yeah.
All right. So this has got a bunch of timers in it that are all like
So what's-
timing out how the guys are spawning here and different stuff there.
The Scout just asked you something, Mike.
Okay.
I can't keep track, so.
Scout, you
So
mean
catch
Henry
up.
Jr.? Henry Jr. asked something?
Thinking.
Let's see. What's the question?
So here's where I'm going to change it. Instead of it running straight at the house, which is that big grouped objects thing there, I'm going to tell it to move along the path.
Can you make a little menu so you select different towers?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if we have time, we'll get to that. I'll add a second
Yeah.
tower that kind of like freezes enemies and a couple other things like that. We'll see where we get to.
Yeah, so if you saw the E3 demo, because all that stuff was in game, a lot of the menus that were popping up there were stuff that was just made with the code tiles and stuff like that.
All right, so it's kind of hard to see
So we'll
where
try to
this
get to
path
that.
is.
So we want to put the tower on a timer at some point. We want to try and get Eddie Parker is in the game. Do we want Eddie Parker in the game?
He's in the game?
They're asking if he's in the game.
Oh, I would
don't
like to
know.
design that character.
know.
Oh, boy.
I don't know, Eddie Parker. We have a lot of Canadian puns and jokes.
Yeah.
Eddie is actually traveling at the moment. He wanted to make it. He's very upset. We're gonna have an Eddie Parker dedicated
Well, that's right. Yeah, he's
Twitch
on the
feed.
plane.
Yeah, where we'll go through like a bunch of Canadian type of stories that he wants to tell about and things like that for sure. Okay, so what are you doing here? You're putting down 4,000 logic cubes seemingly randomly for no reason.
These are where all
No
the,
reason. You're just doing it.
Yeah, no reason. I feel like they should go here. No, but these are where I'll be able to place towers, because each one of these guys, when the game starts, will create one of those little pedestals for me to build towers on top of.
Okay, so
Right.
these are your plates, really, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
so see, that's where those all came from.
very nice.
And so now I can go to each one of these. I don't have any coins yet, so I'm going
Very
to pick
nice.
these up. Those guys, all right. And now my
You got
guys
one
are
of your
coming
towers
in.
on a path. That's against tower defense rules.
It's on the path?
Well, yeah. It's
Kind
creeping
of. It's
over.
like it's creeping.
I don't know.
Like this guy here, maybe you should back.
Maybe well, you're making a special tower. All right, so here we go. I mean, he's never good.
Oh, I only got one guy?
But you got him
Let's take a look
dropping
at that.
coins,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, can you control, say, how often the coins drop?
I figured out what I forgot here.
All right, we'll let you go on that.
Let me just get this part working.
Change your cursor so you can spawn it anywhere. I'm not sure what that means.
I think they want to be able to build towers anywhere instead of building them at like all these predefined spots.
Yeah, you could do it. I
Yeah.
mean, but this is
Yeah, you
sort
can
of.
put functionality to have them drop tower. We're trying to go with some of the quintessential tower defense tropes. But yeah, you could definitely do something like that. So, the difference between like geo defense or something like that where, you're putting things down almost wherever you want. You could easily do something like that. Oh, you got the goblins coming in now.
That's good. That's pretty good. Seems fairly balanced.
So I'm kind of handling
There
it.
we go.
There we go.
All right, so look at that.
I need to make these guys a little bit tougher.
So it's several distractions.
Mhm.
With the fact that we want to go play Sonic Adventure 2 again, because I want to go play that again now. And about 30 minutes, we've got kind of a game here.
Yeah.
And we went a little deeper on the towers, but that was cool. All right, so what are you doing here?
I'm gonna give myself a second enemy type that's a little tougher, so that I have a bigger
you got to
challenge.
scale up. So you got to scale.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna get the other goblin in here though.
All right.
Right.
All right, so the scavenger goblin. So this guy's cool. He's got this kind of wood bark tree shield, and yeah, he's angry.
I'll make him big.
That's an angry goblin.
All right, so he's got the same brain as the other guy since I copied him from there. So he comes along with that, and then I'm going to go into his health here and give him 200 hit points.
All right, Kim is helping us answer questions. Thank you, Kim. And a couple things too is before we forget, because we did last time, and there's no excuse for this, but we want to give a shout out to our moderators and all the guys that are helping us. Mike, who here is helping us so much?
Well, obviously Henry Jr., who is Scout.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know what it is. We
I
got.
claim no allegiance.
we
I was not there on that day.
I think Sharp is in chat, Homer SPC, and who else is moderating? Basically all the moderators on Reddit and project-spark.org have been a great help for us in a lot of ways. Some might argue they've been doing my job a lot. Hey, I'm okay with that. Homer, yes, Homer. Who else?
Make sure we don't miss
Ex-sharpshooter.
Get
Let's
rid
see.
of knockback of cannonball.
Okay. That would make it really hard, though. I can do it. Let me just do a little bit of math here on where this coin is spawning so I can make sure I can grab it.
Make a tunnel overpass. So we'll do some cool things with the path when we get some art love in here. We're going to focus on the mechanics.
What was the thing they said?
Those
before
towers are too good. The towers are too good.
All right, so we'll make these guys not
You're
get
just
kind
not
of
making these
stalled.
overpowered games.
All right, so maybe the big guy. Maybe that'll be another part of his abilities here. So we've got this thing called hit reactions. So what I can
Jared
do,
likes the easier games.
turn this all off. So now the big guy, he won't even be.
They want to know
stunned.
how big the big goblin can get. They
All right.
want Pacific Rim scale goblins.
All right, well, fine. We'll put it like maybe the third wave.
We'll
We'll
get
have like a
Guillermo
boss in
del
there or something.
Toro size goblins.
All right.
That's the kind of size he'd go for. Begin with
Countdown timer.
Oh, it's a fantastic idea.
Oh boy.
Oh, X25 again.
That guy.
I bet
Man.
is that
All
not-
right, so he wants the big guys to be tower seekers.
So that gives you an idea of the scale here of how big this guy can get. That would probably break my game there because he would get like trip over the little towers or something going on
I
there.
think we actually scale bigger now. But
Yeah, that could be. That could be. I mean, this is like a
all right,
month and a half
so
old
you're
build.
getting
It's the
the
E3
enemy
build, yeah.
variant type. So that's a good point. So one of the things that we bring up is, in tower defense, what makes things so special is the kind of paper rock scissors nature of it is using the right towers in the right places for the right enemies and seeing the waves that are coming in. So having the ability to do something like this goblin is resistant to whatever property you define the cannonballs at.
Right.
If they're the fire ones or something like that. You can do stuff like that, and that gives you a ton of flexibility on getting these different enemy types.
So I was going to go ahead and build the second tower type, the one I'd mentioned before that can kind of freeze guys.
Okay,
Is that
that'd be
cool?
cool.
If
So
I
let's
go
show
that
how we can
direction?
freeze guys.
So
I love
first,
it.
it's not going to make any sense if this has fire coming out of it. So I'm going to go switch this up to some sort of ice effect. See what we've got there. Let me do a little one every time it shoots. Okay, and I'm going to make this throw instead of shoot. And then I need a new...
Build an ice cannon that slows them. So
Yep,
Hunter
exactly.
Man Z, that's exactly what Jared is going for.
Okay, give it a different projectile here. Instead of a cannon. Ball, and let's make it look a little bit different. So I'm going to swap that out for Arctic Stone, maybe? We'll see if that looks any good.
So yeah, you can easily upgrade towers. So one of the things you could do is put a condition on the tower. So for example, you can put 5 coins on it to power it up to the first level. And if you put 10 coins into it for the second level, you can just switch pages, and then the second page can have all the same code as the first page, but you can change all of the damage numbers. That would be a really easy and quick way to do it. So you could definitely upgrade towers.
There, that looks like I can build a tower out of that.
Can you create a laser projectile?
You can
What are you gonna do?
draw.
I'm just reading out loud.
Okay, well, the
So
things you
Jared
read,
made
they-
Retro Reborn, which has all those lines at the store when you go through them. So I'm sure laser projectile would be easy for Jared to do.
I like this anvil. I'm going to use that.
All right, so we got a giant anvil in our tower defense.
That's going to be my second tower.
That is pretty cool. I love the detail on the anvil. Look at the cracks on the top from where
Yeah.
things have hit it. One of the things you'll notice that the artistic design language is just incredible. The detail on the items is stunning when you get in there, and the anvil is just a great example of it.
Okay. Make this one shoot a bit slower than the other guy. Okay. And
Pinocchio is helping out with the moderation as well. One of the regulars over at project-spark.org.
Cool. Thank you again, everyone.
what am I looking for? Detect. That's what
Could
I'm looking
you
for.
have scaled down that rock past 0%? That sounds like it would break the time-space continuum.
There's also
Is
some
that
stuff.
negative 0?
There's also some stuff like Henry was saying that some of the way our scaling works has changed since I've used this build. So some of it's like that's one of the interesting things. And like just earlier today, I was using a much more recent build of the game, so I'm having to kind of readapt to how things work back from the build we had at E3 here. All right, bump train. And so what I'm going to do here is when this little ice shard hits the ground, it's going to grab all the enemies that it detects nearby and then freeze them. And it'll kind of just slow them down, like make them go half speed or something like
That's
that.
pretty sweet. We don't know what Homer is drinking. But we're going to have a debate on that, though. What are we going to guess?
Oh, well,
Lemon
saw how
juice.
that went.
Gatorade. I don't know. I'm behind in the chat. Did we figure out what Homer was drinking? No. If he's anything like Homer Simpson, he probably drinks butter.
Good butter. So multiplayer, we'll be releasing a lot more information on multiplayer in the future. we don't have that here right now, so that'll be something that when we get into it, we want to give you a lot of information. So we don't want to just stream out little bits right now. In home and drink stuff, I'm reliably informed.
So take its time factor down. That's the thing that'll slow it down. So I'm taking it from default is 1.0, take it down to about 1/3 of its normal speed when they're frozen like this. And I think then the next I want to go over and switch pages.
Yes, we will be at Gamescom.
Okay. So now when we get to this page.
Homer drinks goblin snot.
Oh, that's gross.
You could make goblin snot too.
Just take a waterfall and make it green or something?
Yeah, you could do it just like that.
Oh yeah, I can do this way easier than that.
And you put a bow on the goblin's head. Ah, I don't know if that's giving credit to Mrs. Pac-Man or if that's insulting Mrs. Pac-Man. Brad showed how you could put a fin on a rock, so you could put something like a bow. You could build a bow out of other things and put a bow on there.
Log with rope. That's what I built.
We didn't
everything out
prioritize a bow in our gallery for right now, but maybe that's an item we can add.
Highlight targets blue. Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely consider doing a stream with Crossroads mode on it. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about maybe some potential upcoming streams. If everybody's been, you know, shooting a lot of good ideas our way, so we've got a lot of cool stuff. We got a lot of links appearing in chat. Don't follow those.
So,
just don't follow. Just you don't know. Don't do those.
question is, can you create an object, save it, and then use it later?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So you can. So we call it assemblies, but essentially you can save out an object or a combination of objects. You can save out just a brain. Save out the entire level. You know, one of the things that a lot of people think about when they think about UGC or user-generated games is level, right? I want to go play your level. But Project Spark does take it deeper, so I can just see brains that Jared made. I can, you know, see a brain on the turret, or I could just take, you know, like the turret as its own object if you wanted to share that out. So there's a ton more that you can do than just share out a level. Okay, so what did you do here? We're so far behind because we're just chatting.
Okay, well,
This can't be the format we wanted.
So I put a brain on this little ice shard that is the projectile my second tower will shoot.
So let's actually walk through this one.
Okay, so let me just go through it. So
All
what
right,
happens?
highlight what you're talking about.
So when this will be in the air, flying through the air, and nothing will happen. And then when it bumps the terrain, it'll start doing stuff. So the first thing it'll do is it'll detect around it and look for world enemies. So that's the thing, the list I'm adding all the enemies to as they get created. And then it'll set its own little private list in here to be targets, and that'll equal all the guys that it found on that when it bumped the terrain there. So that grabs out, finds the guys, pulls them in, and then it'll go through each of those targets and slow them down, set them to 1/3 of their normal speed here. So set its time factor to 0.3 for each of those, and then switch over to the next page. And then while we're on this page, it'll highlight each of the targets blue, so I know which ones are moving slowly. And then they'll be in this state of kind of slowed down, glowing blue for 5 seconds. And then at the end of that 5 seconds, I'll go through each of the targets that I've got again, set them back to their default speed, their normal speed there, which I need to put an its in front of that.
Cool.
So good thing I talked through it.
So for anyone joining late, just to catch people up, we have a full visual programming language in every object. Every object has a brain, and that's where you can actually program or put this full visual programming language to work. There's a when side, there's a do side. There's recommendations on tiles and things that you can put in, and it's just super deep. You can do all kinds of stuff. So Jared is walking us through some of the deeper stuff here.
All right, now I got to set up my little pedestal to be able to create the other kind of tower, so that's the next bit I'm going to do here. Oh.
Yes, we could do flying objects, but we're going to hold off on that for
Yeah,
another.
probably going to run out of time here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Make this one cost a little bit more. That'll cost 5. Copy that line.
Yeah, we're coming in at 5:49.
Okay.
We did ask Chris to come down around 6. And Chris can do some cool stuff around the environment that we have. So we're trying to get the game ready for then. We may end up going a little long. Okay, so you're adjusting all the values of the cost of this tower.
Of the second tower.
Okay.
To go from 2 to 5.
So, again, like one of the things you could do is put them all in the same value and then play the game, balance it out, decide which of your towers you want to be more powerful, more valuable as you go. Here, we've got a pretty clear direction on this is going to be a kind of a specialized tower or a stronger tower. So it's it's pretty good to maybe start with a higher value. But from a design perspective, you can easily come from that in different directions, and you can do it different ways. And again, that's one of the great things about Project Spark is one button, you can play this thing, and you can say maybe that tower is not as powerful as I want it. Maybe it should cost more. Maybe it should cost less.
All right, so now we're back to play here after a
All right,
bunch
let's
of
see the
different
game.
coding.
Let's play some.
So you see here, I've got 2 different tower options I can build there. We're probably like right on top of the UI I just built there. So, oh boy,
Whoa!
look at that.
And
all
it is
all
slowing
sorts
them.
of effects.
No,
look at
slowing
that.
them down. Let me cool down those effects a little bit. A little too much going on there. All right. So when see target. All right. I want to make that just every so often. So put a little countdown timer in here.
Somebody's buying pizza. I don't know what happened.
For everyone?
I don't know.
Do they have
What
the-
happened there, Mike?
Do they have the address?
Oh, I think it's probably because we were going long. They were offering pizza to keep us.
Oh,
All right, I'm going to
I
start
get
with
it
some
now.
regular towers here.
I get it
Let
now.
me.
I hear you can use the Xbox Pizza Hut app to
Yeah.
order pizza.
Wait a.
I'm not sure why. I might plug that in the business. Oh, there they go.
Now I get the combo
But you
here.
didn't put up their health. They're like the
Look at
biggest.
that.
Oh, and they're
Even-
dying in slow motion too.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. The handle looks really good as a police turret. Oh, they got through.
Okay.
They got through.
I don't
Oh,
know.
that's it. And they're not moving. Oh,
Put another one back here.
yeah. And you just barely had enough.
No,
coins.
obviously you could spend hours trying to balance this to make the right level of difficulty and everything
Yeah,
else. So,
Mhm.
and this is just a quick first pass to get it
Alright.
functionally running.
Let me get some more enemies down here. So when Chris shows up, he's actually got some
I
stuff
think
to
that's
deal
cool. To
with.
get the enemies and get the bigger guys taking
More.
damage, make them damage sponges. Like get those
Alright,
guys to
alright.
be our tanks.
Okay. Let's go into their properties. I took them up to 200.
Make the
hit points.
coins disappear if you don't grab them. See, we can do this stuff. We
Yeah.
just we gotta prioritize. This is sort of like what it's like developing Project Spark. Instead of like, we can do that. Well, hang on. we
Oh,
can do
yeah.
this. Somebody comes over, sees something cool. Oh, how about this?
Okay. Now I'm probably gonna get destroyed by those big guys now. I just made them have 500 hit points instead of.
Oh, I feel
200.
so bad for you.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think what I should do to make that, to give myself a chance.
Do you
against
have
that
to
many.
win all games? you
No.
play? Is
Okay,
that
fine.
just-
I'll
is that
lose.
just something-
I'll lose
Is that
here.
something we learned
That's a
about
good
you
point.
here?
We should make a lose condition
We should
here.
make a lose condition.
Actually, I don't know if I'm spawning
Yeah,
enough
that way we
enemies for
learn
me to
more
actually
than
lose.
we-
I'll take my hit points down a little bit, so I only can let maybe.
That building better it better explode and burn. Oh,
Now you're
wow,
making
look
my
at
life
that.
hard. This is what it's like interacting with Henry on Project Spark. It's like, here's
Yeah,
another
this
good
is-
idea. Here's another good idea.
This is. I might do this more than I should.
Okay. So lose condition. So if 3 enemies get through, then if my hit points are less than 0 or 0 less than or equal to 0.
Then you can switch a page. You can switch a page. You want? I
Um,
want you to switch a page.
All right. Yeah. Less than or equal to
Hey,
0.
hey, no one likes a backseat designer.
Ah! Every designer's a backseat designer.
That's true.
All right. Switching pages to make Henry happy. And then
I like using the switch page when you do something like this because it's a clean way of eliminating the UI if you want to, doing transitions and fade outs, putting game over screens, doing score recaps if you want a specific score on there, or even like, so I mean, you could easily say something like, defeat all the goblins and do a wave. But like if you wanted to throw like a little bit of a curveball in the whole tower defense design, you could almost say something like, can you survive for 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And then you could have a counter that shows you how long you survived, and then switching page is really clean because you can just have a counter display there and say, how long did you survive?
All right. So I put.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss when we go through this is, the end game conditions, and we do have some default ones, right? So, when you think about it, you've got obviously like scores and timers and checkpoints and
Mhm.
collecting a certain number of objects does a thing. The possibilities are endless, and that's why it's really adept at building games because the programming language lets you build all these game states, these game conditions, even some kind of like depth, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing here is like when you build a game, that when you play it, you get better at it. That's when you know you've got depth. And having those different game conditionals and all the tools to iterate, it's great to be able to build these games with depth.
Nice. Now,
So you're getting really uncomfortable. You're gonna lose.
Yeah.
So what did you make happen when you lose?
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Let's see what happens when you lose.
So it should take just 3 guys because I turned my hit points.
Pretty
way
nice
down.
house though. Oh.
1,
Oh.
2.
Oh, so
Game
there is
over.
the game over. So now the cool thing is, if he had put the game over, you used the game over tile, I assume.
No, I
wasn't
just did
watching.
some text. So
Oh,
I've
okay.
got text, game
Oh, no,
over.
so okay. So we also have a game over tile, and that can change the whole game condition to end your game and take you back out to the menu screen. The cool thing is if you're actually building your game, you won't go out to the menu screen. You'll just sort of go back. You can go back out, in and out, and test it. But if you're playing the game, it'll obviously take you out to the end screen.
Let's maybe do a 3rd type of enemies here. Maybe like a fast one.
Make the
or
house
something.
blow up when it's game over. See, that's what I said. And then
I could maybe do that. Let me think about how I would do that.
Sometimes a greater director knows.
Words no one's ever said
Yeah,
before.
right.
All right.
There's
Okay, I'm
probably
gonna do
an E
something.
card somewhere with that on it.
There's
I
probably
am
gonna
lonely
be
back here.
I don't know. Okay, here's what I was thinking. I could take all the pieces of the house,
Okay.
make them tumbling objects
Oh my god.
by default, then attach them all to a logic cube so they don't go flying off at the beginning of the game. And then when the game ends, I detach them all from the logic cube so then they like fall apart. You want me to do that?
Crazy.
I could do that.
Can you do it quickly?
Is that what everybody wants to see, or they want to see more game? I think they want to see more game. I think they want to see more game.
Okay,
I
so
wanna
I'll
see
get
more
some.
game.
I was
Let's
gonna do a
more
fast enemy. That was the next thing I was gonna do because it would take a while to set that like breaking apart house thing to actually work, but it's doable. Okay, so I just want to copy one of these guys. Maybe make like a little version of this one. I gotta remember to take his hit points down again though. Otherwise I'll lose again. It's a little guy. That's probably too small. My towers are all gonna miss him. A little bit bigger. Okay. And
My horse looks sad. I don't
Mr.
know.
Horse. Don't
Oh.
you know Mr. Horse?
Oh yeah, he's the guy with the little.
Yeah, so
horse
he
icon.
can only he didn't have that, so he had to be Mr. Sad Horse. So I always tell him he looks sad when he comes in.
I
see?
see.
so I'm gonna go into movement properties here.
There's something bad about a sad horse.
I know, right?
Is that even possible?
A sad
Sad
horse?
Why the long face?
I guess Black Beauty. What was that one? There was that movie with the horse stuff. It's always sad. All right. Well, I guess there's sad horses. We can put it over 9,000 by just having a counter that says over 9,000. We can't actually like Dragon Ball Z it.
All right. So now we got 3 waves of guys here. We'll get the regular guys on the first one, the
you're
big
gonna lose
guys
again.
that I'm probably going to lose against on the second wave, and then a bunch of really fast guys. We should at least see the little
We should
fast
crank
guys.
it up and put some more coins.
Yeah, put a lot more
Get all
coins
these
going
like
in
towers going.
Do they drop coins?
here. Yeah,
Well,
the bad guys.
So and you've got so that's one thing. You control how much they drop.
So maybe like the big guys should drop like 4 coins or something like that. Something that lets me win here, Henry.
They should dance on the way. They could dance with that.
How about dancing?
Oh, boy.
I don't know how we ended up on the subject of rock cone.
I'm not even going to get another coin here from these big guys. Oh man, the little guys are getting pushed around. I didn't expect that to happen. Alright, well, I'm going to lose here again.
Oh, you are. Okay, so let's get focused. Right, this is the toughest thing we can do.
Okay.
Right,
Just
let's get
focus,
focused.
yeah.
What does everybody want to see here to kind of wrap up, or head towards wrapping up tower defense? What are we missing? What are we missing from tower defense?
Give us a good suggestion here.
Okay, so an ice-resistant enemy. I mean, that's good. It's easy, right? You can just clone that other enemy and then, like, just take out the time factor stuff to slow them down, right?
Yeah, I could, it'd actually be super easy what I could do.
You can make the ice heal them.
Mm-hmm. I could do
Flying
in here.
enemies, if flying enemies, then there's a path, and there's not a
Yeah,
path.
that's a whole thing.
That'd be a stretch to make an ice resistant one. We
All
could
right,
do
so
that.
Chris is at the door. So we want to do some cool stuff around making the world look cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll do that, and then we'll hop back into some game stuff.
All right, so let's
All
let
right,
Chris
so
do
let's
his
do
thing.
that. Let's have Chris come in here.
All right. I'm gonna scoot out to the side here.
So come on in, Chris. Perfect timing.
Cool.
Jared was just being tasked with making some like
Some
super
crazy thing.
celebrational
You just
boss.
saved me, Chris.
Awesome.
It was a flying boss that destroys the house in pieces, could deliver pizza was definitely over 9,000, and something about waffle cones. I'm not.
And
I
drinking
think
something.
He could have pulled that off. He could have pulled that off though. So
maybe
Chris,
more than an hour.
So Chris, introduce yourself real quick.
Hello world, I'm Chris, I'm an environment artist on Project Spark.
You're slightly off camera. There we go. So Chris is now more like 98% more on camera.
I'm gonna find some water.
Lovely.
We got 98% more
Sure.
Chris than before.
Jared, what have you done here?
So what he's got here is those logic cubes are a bunch of the little default metal plates that we have.
Exquisite.
And those are spawning your little platforms where you want to put your towers. And the goblins there are spawning at the end of the path, and they're coming to kill your house.
Let's take a look.
So here we go. So you can collect those coins and grab them. See, look, he already knows how to play it. Were you watching the feed? And then you can drop in the towers.
Alright. Let's
Okay.
do this. Let's do this.
All right. So now we're going to
All right.
dive into some of the sculpting and some of the painting and some of the tools that help us beautify our world.
Absolutely. And what's so cool about this tool is that makes it really easy for you to do all of these things. So first things first, we're gonna find.
All right. So we're going through the materials.
Yeah, going through the biome set. I was thinking about maybe doing something a little bit on the deserty side. Yeah, why not?
All right.
Let's go for it.
All right.
Pull all of these biome materials down just for ease. Here we go.
All right. So basically decided to build his sort of palette ahead of time. At any point you can swap out and in textures. And one of the cool things is when you swap a material with another material, it actually swaps it over if it's in that slot. So you're painting with this material here, but if for some reason you wanted to change it and not lose the work that you did, you could easily just swap that over too.
Exactly.
So some of the other things we talked about before, you can change your brush size,
Yes.
shape. You can change the intensity. So here he's kind of expanding the brush.
Sure. We can mess with that right now.
So you can go in and you can see the intensity. You can see the highlight getting dim and getting brighter.
This is great for mostly just blending between different material types.
So we had a couple of requests while we were building the game that had to do with aesthetics. Somebody was
Excellent.
asking for like some elevation or some sort of height to some of the paths, or maybe some bridge stuff. Somebody wants you to add some hills.
Hills. I can do hills.
And then we had some maybe having the goblins instead of spawning out of nowhere, maybe spawning out of a cave. So those are some of the cool things people are asking for.
Yeah, caves work. Jared has told me that if I put elevation on the actual path, he will find me and hurt me.
Right, because then I'll have to go back in and adjust the path tool.
Yeah.
That is true.
But I mean,
But you
know.
could. That's because we turned snap to
Well, I mean, we could. I could adjust the path and then adjust the position of the tower spawners and things like that. It'd all be doable. It's just
Right.
like
would it be just as simple as grabbing these
Yeah, it would.
little axes?
I think he just didn't want to.
I
They
understand.
were tight on time.
Yeah, let's just avoid it altogether then. I don't want to die. All right. So yeah, let's start elevating some of this stuff by.
So talk a bit about like what are some of the things that you really like about the kind of rapid nature of iteration? Because
Sure.
as Jared was making the game, he was building it and testing it, building and testing it, and that's totally like something that's applicable to art as well in our game.
It's and it's funny. It's a funny thing because obviously we've made a lot of progress on this.
But like
product.
seeing the art in the actual world itself is like incredible. Like I'm gonna date myself here, but when I worked on Game Boy, like and we did Game Boy Color, like stuff would come in yellow from the dev kits, and then like you'd have to go back and fix all that. But like actually seeing the art like right there in your game, in the lighting conditions, like that's a big thing.
It's pretty cool. Is this new? I think that might be new. Adding this shape. Okay. Yeah, so when I
So the bar on the bottom there swaps out a couple different things. Right now it's giving him the ability
There
to
we go. I see
change
how this
the
works now.
scale and the intensity of the brush that he's using.
I'm working on
But right here it's actually your material palette. So this is how you actually swap through the different textures you're applying to stuff.
this is the first thing that Brad Schuber, our art director, showed me on this project, and it still sits today as one of the coolest things
Just watching that peel
just
part is
happen
awesome.
in our freaking engine. And it just goes on forever, and you can just make any shape you want with just hitting the left and right trigger on your mouse. And then you can go back over it and start painting
How many undos are there? As many undos as you need.
as many undos as you need. up until that section,
until
though,
the-
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you load your level,
Yes, we're
Goes back
trying
that
to
far.
see if we can keep it beyond it. But yes, right now, as soon as you go and you test, you won't have the undos, but the undo bar will go pretty much as long as you need until you
Absolutely.
go and test.
so as I have just come in and
They're
annihilated
really
this-
disappointed by the lack of U and V-shaped hills. I don't know. I love
got a
the
good
U-shape.
audience out there.
I love the U-shaped stuff, and the shirt was cool, but the horse is starting to go, hey, stop hitting me.
That's awesome. Let's see here. Alright, so we are in the desert, so we should probably have some dead things.
Are there random up the side of that ball? Trying to understand some of the comments.
Characters will be something we get into in the future, and we'll give you guys a lot of good information about.
Yeah, we definitely see the questions.
know.
We talked about this a little bit before, but we've got Gamescom coming up. We still have a lot of work to do to tell the world about Project Spark. Definitely help us out as much as you guys are willing to. We appreciate it. But we have a bunch of stuff that, there's two things. There's things that we have some surprises. We have some fun stuff to talk about. But also, we want to make sure stuff is at the point where, we can show it and we can be confident in it and we can know that it's awesome. And, some of that stuff just takes time. And some of it just, it's coming.
Jared, I'm not trying to destroy your level, but I think I am a little bit. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, you're good.
Cool.
You're good.
That's the iterative process.
That is
passing it-
crazy.
Passing it back and forth between art and design.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're working on something, and back and forth. And,
Okay, all right. So we've
it's
got
super
a
fun.
we've got we've got a request to see some of the biome stuff at some point. I think that's a good thing to do as
I
we
think
get
that's a
closer to
great
getting
thing
our
to do.
shapes in there for sure.
Certainly. Now,
I
like,
love the control you have over like the shapes, like just putting in the sphere, with the add brush. So you're literally adding voxels with the
yeah,
sphere,
and
adding
I'm
that terrain.
currently from what I am using, I am just using the sphere tool. You can
and
go
it's
in.
amazing. One of the things we talk about is, like, in the community, we love it when people collaborate, right? And this is a great example of that collaboration. Like, you have such an amazing eye to create these shapes. Jared's so amazing with the brains. We have people on the team that are doing both and going back and forth, and there's a passion and what people want to do. But it's great that people, are able to collaborate and build together. And it's also amazing that people just by themselves can do it all as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will reveal a secret at Gamescom. Absolutely tune in. You guys will be blown
Homer
away.
will tell us what he drinks.
And maybe that's it.
Coming at Gamescom.
Alright, so let's go on.
Michael revealed all of the secrets behind Project Spark Org.
Right. And the fact that Henry's actually a robot.
I've been called worse.
Yeah.
Robot's not too bad. If it's like a Blade Runner kind of cool robot, it's not bad.
There you go. That's the biome.
If it's like that Robots movie robot, I don't know about that.
So,
Goblin, yeah, okay. So Goblin, the opposite of Snot. Yeah, suppose you could do that.
is the peak working on this? Yeah, it would seem so. So yeah, I'm currently just plopping down what the
Cool,
brown
so let's
brush.
explain the biome. So the biome brush automatically paints objects from our props and textures. But the cool thing that it does is it actually is kind of trying to fill your world with life. So it's giving you some things it can actually drop objects in that have pre-built behavior on it. So for example, we have biomes that can drop in little squirrels that run around and patrol. But the really cool thing about biomes is it knows where you're at in the world as well. So what Chris was talking about was, he was trying to elevate the biome and paint some peaks because it changes sort of what the biome does at high elevations. You happen to use a texture that's similar to what this biome alters at the peaks, so you didn't see a radical shift there. But if you did it at like a shoreline, it'll actually start putting in a shore for you, and it'll start blending it. And that's one of the reasons why, aside from some really cool talent around the shapes you did here, we've already got such an organic look to this desert world. Because the tools are really very well set up for it, but it's also, just this shape language and stuff that we're doing here brings out that organic nature, and the biome just drives it home.
Guys, when you get a chance, if you want to just, they want to see the character run around and just see what it looks like for a few seconds.
Absolutely, we can
we're-
throw in a character with a really cool camera. After we give Chris a little bit of time, so they want to go into play mode. So go ahead and just play a little bit and check out what the level looks like.
Yeah, like through just the eyes of the.
Cool. So
The
just like, what
donut.
does the tower defense game look like right now?
Sure. Do we have a zoom out feature?
Nope.
I think that might have been a little bit lag 'cause we just did this, but we can do it again if people want to see. So, Jared, I either really suck at this or it's not in balance.
No, it's not bad.
It's not balanced very well. If you build
It's
the
not.
ice-
Jared was like, I gotta win, and he made the towers all
If you
strong.
build the ice tower first, then you don't have enough coins to build anything else, so you're
Right.
kind of in trouble now.
But you're right. Okay.
I like the ice tower.
It is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
It's a freaking
Look at
handheld
that.
that
Isn't
shoots
that
ice
cool?
out of itself. All right. Well.
So can you show him some really quick stuff? So we've got a cool environment stubbed in. I wanna hit Jared up with one more task before we finish.
Yeah.
this
You
up.
want to jump in
Okay.
and do some fun?
Okay. But real quick, can you show everybody like how quickly you can set your lighting and the
Oh,
mood
yeah.
sort of how you can change your level?
So yeah, we come right here to world settings, and you can change your backdrop.
Oh, that is freaking
So
awesome.
we can go.
That looks so. Oh, we gotta go with that one.
You gotta go with that
Evening
one.
looked awesome. Did you all go
The
back?
sunset? Is that the one you want?
Go back to evening.
You want evening.
It looks. Look at that.
He likes
Aw.
evening. We'll give you evening.
That was cool.
And, oh, my apologies.
So that's some of the other additional filters that you can put on the background as well.
Nice long shadows.
No, that's evening. Sun will be down. So yeah, you can instantly start messing with that,
That looks completely different.
and just 2 clicks, and you got yourself
Look at that.
a
That's
whole
awesome.
different looking place.
That is so sweet. That is really sweet. It does. It looks like Mars. It reminds me of like Total Recall.
You can't hit X.
Cool. Oh, you're out of coins.
Red. You don't have enough coins.
You're out of coins. See, he even gave you
You just
things.
didn't pick them up at the beginning here.
Cool.
I do suck at this game,
You don't
Jared.
remember
All
the
right.
word?
That is
There
pretty
you
sweet. So let's hit Jared up with one last big task.
Oh boy.
Chris, thank you again for your
Yeah, no
time.
problem.
Thanks,
Super
man.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
That
Yeah,
was
no problem.
awesome. I just love the shapes. Okay, so one of the things that I like to preach about design, I don't preach a lot of stuff, but is let's do something really special within this tower defense that Project Spark is known for. You know what I'm asking? You got an idea?
Terrain stuff. Right?
Yes, I want to be able to build terrain with my cursor to wall off the goblins from our path and have the goblins cut through the terrain.
Okay. This is gonna take a few minutes.
So make the big guy smash through the terrain and make it so you can draw little walls and stuff.
Okay, let me think about what do I gotta do here. Okay. Gotta do some advanced stuff just to get ready for that, so I don't get like stuck in terrain
All
or
right,
anything.
he's warming up.
Okay.
You're already warmed up. You got it.
So
Is this
is
what it's like to work with me all the time?
pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's what one of the things Mike said. Is this is just normal for
Yeah.
us. Yeah, it's basically normal. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, so you're ray casting.
Yeah, I want to make sure that
That sounds all kinds of crazy.
as I make terrain here, I want to make sure I stay on top of it and don't
Okay.
get like sucked
So
into
by
my
ray
own-
casting, you're sending a point down that is
Mhm.
going until it hits something.
Yep, until
Right.
it hits the terrain.
And then that's sort of returning that data to
Right.
whatever you want to define. So that is an example of how deep and how precise you can get with this. You can literally go into ray casting. And now you're going into some more position stuff. Raycast position plus. Wow, you're going over the top.
Let's just see what this
I would have
is.
just thrown in some add create
Why?
stuff.
Well, I'm just getting this is the warm up here.
Alright, alright.
Okay, from center.
So-
let me just make sure that works. Let's see what happens.
Can we get a shout out to somebody named Gary Oak? Absolutely. Gary Oak, shout out to you.
All right, so that put me right inside the train, which is exactly what I was trying not to do.
So again, the really good thing is you know exactly what you're zeroing in on and just instantly you're able to try it.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And that's really
here
what
we are.
helps.
We're back.
That really is what helps make it feel like creating
Ooh.
and playing is one thing. You went right through the
Went through the train.
terrain. So that's one of the things that helps you make you feel that playing and creating is all one thing.
I can do this specifically when I'm creating trains. That'll reduce the chance of these errors here. So what I'll do is when I'm holding A, I will create some terrain.
Okay. So you've got you've got your tower defense games that are on really set paths, and then you've got really set placement. So I threw you over here a curveball, so you can sort of mix that up. Use the power of Project Spark with its awesome terrain generation, and sort of mix the two tower defense genres. You may or may not want to do something like that, but you guys talked about being able to put the towers wherever you wanted. This is even cooler. You can sort of put these walled off paths and make your own paths. But I just want to show the big giant guy like eating right through the wall you put there. All right, so what you're doing now is you're going into the terrain stamp, which is going to create a piece of terrain in the shape of a cylinder at a position which you're defining as center plus forward, and we're waiting for
with
your
a
next
little
one here.
bit of math.
With a
on
little
it.
bit
so
of
I'll
math.
create the terrain like in front of my guy.
Can you? Is there actually a little bit of math?
Well,
Isn't
maybe
it
not.
just all math?
To me, it's a little
It's
bit.
math
There's
with
no
math.
trigonometry
Okay,
in that line
I got you.
right there. So, all right. So that should just start doing it right now. So I'm going to stamp terrain in the cylinder shape at the position that's in front of me by a couple meters there. So let's just see what happens when we do that.
All right. So before we go, we're going to, by popular demand, apparently have to create a U.
All right. So that's not working. Hold on. Let's
If we
figure
create
out.
a U shape, then we're going to hear, there was another demo with a U. So I don't know, I'm torn on here. Mike, where's the popularity right now on the U versus not U?
Well, I don't know. Everybody's trying to get a shout out now because you kind of did that. So,
Ah,
all
right.
Let's make sure this
people
is a
want a
good
V.
size.
Well,
They
I
want a
always
V?
see a U. How about a V? Mix it up a little.
Do a V. It makes me think of V for Vendetta.
What's the radius?
Okay, so that was another earlier question, was radius. So here you can see Jared's actually defining the radius of the terrain he's creating and the height. So you're trying to put it on the cursor here.
Oh,
What is
I
going
just
on there?
built terrain on top of myself and dropped myself through the
yeah.
world. So
All right, did I put you on the spot too good?
it was a good one. I think I can recover from this.
All right.
We're gonna pull it
At
out.
least people know this is all real. And
You're
Yeah,
up-
yeah. This
you're
is
under the-
unscripted. This is coming
You're
at
under
me.
the time limit here.
Okay. So let's just make it a little bit further away from me, and I think I'll be okay.
Oh man, people are really amping it up. They want N's, and V's. We're gonna get W's next.
All right, and
Henry
there we
showed
go.
going inside a house.
Look at that.
Last
Yeah,
time.
you can't go in that specific house.
So it looks like it's
designed
always
like that,
creating
but
it
you
to
can
my
make
right.
your own interiors.
Which is kind of weird.
Okay,
So
that's good enough though. Let's get the goblin to eat through that.
I want to adjust this position just a teeny bit, if you'll let me.
Always a professional.
So
A
it's coming in.
W-shaped hill. A Z-shaped hill. We're running out of letters.
Oh,
the
no,
whole
right?
alphabet.
We're gonna have to go to like katakana and kanji-shaped hills or something.
Oh,
Whoa.
nice.
Okay, so my character's like spinning around. That's what's going on here. So you just can't tell what the forward
Ah,
is
yes.
on the circle here. So.
So again, we're in new territory. We're running new.
Let's do.
Can the game designers create Project Spark achievements? I mean that's a cool question. Like you can't create like platform level achievements, but you can definitely create like your own goals, your own little missions, and your own little achievements within your level. That's for sure. And then obviously we'll have stuff as we talk about achievements and things like that more. But we'll have stuff where the things that you do will relate to the achievement. So they won't just be play related; they'll be create related achievements, of course.
All right. This. ought to
We'll
make
we'll
it
sick,
a
we'll be
little bit
sicking
more
Rob on our achievement design pretty soon, and Rob is.
Oh yeah.
What in the world was that?
I'm doing all
It was
sorts of crazy
some,
things now.
Some
Henry.
Vegas Siegfried and Roy. I was waiting for a tiger to jump through the hoop.
I think I need to switch those. That was one of those instances of the order of those two lines being extremely important. All right, a little bit more predictable
Oh,
here.
we got Pikachu-shaped hill. We'd have to bring Chris back. I think I prefer Squirtle, but you could make an earthquake, definitely. Volcano. You may or may not see a volcano at some point.
All right, so I just had to change the controls so it's a little bit more predictable. So now I'm more of like tank controls here and how I move this thing. But that allows me, right now I'm always building it to my left. I'm going to put that in front of me again. So I recovered here, Henry. There's some crazy stuff happening there.
Okay.
But we got it back here.
Okay.
All right, so now we
So
want to make...
we are definitely getting the size of the maps question. So we hear the question, and that is one of the things that
We'll be
we're
coming
not
in the
able
future.
to, yes, we're not able to talk about right now.
We'll be
But
giving
we
you a
definitely
lot
hear the
more
question.
info about that in the future.
And we know it's an important thing to the community. We want a Jared-shaped hill. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, a Lemmings game would be awesome. The goblins can completely play the role of a lemming, without a doubt. You just gotta get the lights, little squeak. Wow, they fall.
Now I should be able to back up.
All right, I'm not sure what you're doing. I'm like,
I don't know. I'm not sure. What
I'm
doing
behind.
anymore. Okay, I can really only move forward right now.
All right,
I'm
so
messed
just
up
go
my
ahead and make
controls.
some terrain and let the goblin cut through.
Okay, so we got a block of terrain there, so
There we
that will get all my goblins stuck.
Okay.
So I just made the game where I win every time, Henry.
Well,
Great idea.
well, you can fix that. You can tell them if they're on the path or they hit an object and bump
Yep,
terrain,
yep.
and then you can give them logic.
Yeah, give them some more
So you can
advanced
do
AI
that.
stuff in there, because
Yeah,
right now these
that's
guys
easy.
are just like a couple lines.
All right,
back
we
here.
got one too. We're gonna do towards the end. Can you make a flood? So we'll
Flood?
show something cool. We'll just raise the water level.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'll
That's
pipe
so
in
easy.
some water.
Okay. So then we want this guy when he gets. Let me think
When he
about
bumps
that.
terrain. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
he's always going to be
Yeah,
bumping
yeah,
terrain
bump
because he's always on
terrain,
the ground. So
yeah.
I got to do more raycasting. Hold on.
That's right. Bump terrain forward.
Okay, so raycast.
I threw you a good one.
Yeah, you did.
There's probably an email from me somewhere that says, "Hey, I'm going to ask you to build a hill," and you may not have seen it. I did actually put him on the spot. Mike knows.
True story.
Somehow we broke down into Pokemon. I don't know how that happened. Earthquake, volcano. Make a wizard and a bridge.
Okay, so now that'll detect. This guy will be looking for terrain, kind of raycasting from above his position forward in the direction he's moving for 3 meters, and if he detects terrain, then we'll make him
Subtract.
Subtract. Okay. Let's
Make a null. Make a grassy
subtract
null.
terrain.
Combat system is something we'll go into in the future as well.
I would say that we haven't scratched the surface of what we've shown on the combat. So there'll be some really cool stuff to be able to dig into the combat once we talk about once we have some time to show combat a little bit more dedicated.
Plus, what am I doing? Directions forward. So this is all the vector math stuff. I'm
Yeah.
calculating different.
So you guys can
places.
like Madden Telestrator break this down after
Yep.
and see what Jared did with every broken icon he found in the gallery.
That raycasting thing was brand new for E3
All
there,
right.
so. Okay, I don't actually need those. I'm using terrain
All right.
here.
All right, so let's see what happens now when we put some terrain.
Well, let's just see if they see if this works.
And we get
We'll
some
find
guys.
out.
Come on. Uh-oh.
Okay,
The
so
little
far-
guys are gonna get stuck, right? You put only on the big
it's on the
oh, no,
little
you put
guys
on the
here
guys
actually. Oh,
Uh,
teeny bit there, not very much.
Oh yeah, no, he's never gonna get through. That's gonna be about
that's
an
gonna
hour.
take a little while.
Yeah, there
so
we go.
let's make it a little bit.
But you
bigger.
got it.
A little
You
bit bigger
got it.
space.
He's got it. I will buy this game just because you can raycast. Can we get marketing to put that on
Yeah,
like
back of the
some-
box
some
quote right
material
there.
or
Send
something
an
like
email
that?
right now.
That is the best game quote ever.
All right, so I need to make the cylinder a bit.
I will
bigger.
download this game because you can raycast. I love that.
Radius.
So here, I don't know if you saw, but Scout is feeding the trolls, but Jared is trying to make the
Almost modern.
terrain that the goblins are actually subtracting larger. So you saw that they were actually they're working, but they were doing a small one.
Okay.
All right, so let's see
I
what we
need
got.
to, need to make my wall here.
Wall would be good. You need a wall from the go from.
There we go. Now we
All
find
right, here
out.
we go.
Oh, they're gonna just
they're
dig
going,
a hole.
they're going under.
And now they're gonna swim to the house.
Awesome.
So that segues nicely
That
into
segue
the
is
flood.
perfect. So go ahead and let's show the flood. So there's a water level in the level. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. So
Yep.
so here they dug to the water level, but you can go to the world settings similar to what Chris went into. I love your tower. your turrets are still trying to get them.
It's like they can't even see.
So
it
go
down
ahead and
there.
show them the water level.
And these guys can't swim, so they're just all sorts of trouble. Sorry, that's bizarre. Okay.
All right. So there we go. So I think it's pretty easy to see that's a tower defense right there. We had multiple enemy types. You can pretty easily copy the spawns, turn them into waves. You could riff on more of the turrets, do some balancing, and you already had the cool cursor walking around collecting coins. And here we go. Really quickly, we just flooded this area.
And now my cursor was really slow. My swim speed must be really low.
All right. So there we go. So Mike, do you have any words to take us out?
So we're going to be doing a stream next week after there are some cool, exciting announcements at Gamescom. We haven't decided. Probably be the middle of the week. I'd like to do it earlier, but Henry tends to sleep late and wants to do it more of his time. See, I care about you folks.
There's like a job and work and stuff.
We also think there's going to be a lot of news for Gamescom kind of going on. So we're not sure of the time, but we'll put that out. But in the meantime, you know, keep your eyes open. There's going to be some really great stuff that we're going to be announcing. We'll do our best to kind of let you know about that.
Well, we know everybody's looking for some new stuff, a new build, so, you know, that's one of the things we want to do is try and get, you know, as soon as we talk about stuff at Gamescom, get the ability to talk to everyone about some of the stuff with the new build.
That's right.
Cool.
And yeah. So
All right.
and go to project-spark.org, forms there, and go to reddit.com/r/Project Spark Game. And there's also, you can go to find us on Facebook and on Twitter and see
Perfect.
what's going on. And wow, that was a pretty good time.
And now we fade out. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Mike.